My name is Manoj Gupta, and today I'm going to present you a very interesting story of ONDC of 2023 and 2024. What we're expecting now. ONDC, is more than 2.5, 3 years old now when it started, and it has been an interesting journey. Plotch.ai, we basically have been associated with ONDC very, very early days, and so we have seen a lot of stuff. We have seen, alpha launch, beta launch, and then launch in Bangalore, and then scale up, after that kind of stuff, right? So what happened in 2023 in ONDC was something, of something we did expect from a lot of perspective, and something we expected, so there was something which we did expect, something we expected kind of stuff. And today I'm going to show you what 2023 has been and what we expect. We have seen a lot of stuff in ONDC, so we have certain kind of, you can say, pulse of what is happening, what's going to happen, and those kind of stuff. So to give you something that we feel will happen in 2024, and then basically get into a Q&A. Usually I've done these webinars a lot of times, so, we get a lot of Q&As, a lot of people have a lot of questions. So, we will be happy to answer you any questions you have. If you have any questions in between that you need clarity on, feel free to ask me. Now, before I get into ONDC, 2024, let me tell you a little bit about us. People want to know what Plotch.ai is. And Plotch.ai, today we are the largest ONDC Rails infrastructure company. And when we mean largest, with respect to transactions, with respect to number of clients, with respect to the categories we cater to, with respect to the locations that we cover, we basically, have the largest suite of software products, and that basically is a key USP that we offer to a lot of our enterprise and mid-scale enterprise clients. And we have an experienced team. Myself, I and Monica, we two co-founders of Plotch.ai. We built craftseller.com before, scaled that to millions of transactions. So a lot of e-commerce DNA which runs into us, and that's the kind of DNA and passion and experience that we have bringing into ONDC. Now, ONDC, 2 years or 2.5 years back, when we first heard about ONDC, we realized, oh, what an interesting thing, what an interesting opportunity for for multiple folks, multiple variety of folks, right? And we of course find our own white space opportunity in ONDC, but it is an arena, it is a playground which actually gonna germinate a lot of new businesses, lot of innovations, and a lot of other interesting, you can say, tools, software, innovation in logistics, innovation in retail side, in mobility, and a lot of other stuff. Now, ONDC, I usually give a little bit of a 5-minute rundown on ONDC itself, because a lot of people do have questions on what is ONDC, and they might be coming here the first time. ONDC is the latest jewel in India stack, which Indian government has put. You have heard of Aadhaar, you have heard of DigiLocker, you use UPI every day, most of you might be using it. Uh, it is all these are part of India stack, and ONDC is something that Indian government has said that we want to transform e-commerce, commerce, not just retail, but broadly commerce in India, and most of the commerce in India is digitized in single digit. Whether it's retail is 7% of the total retail, whether it's B2B, which is like 1% of the total B2B happening, whether it's mobility, which is like less than 10% of the total mobility rights which happen in India. Whatever number you take, basically it's single digit, and next 90%, which is not digitized, is where the ONDC comes into picture. Now, UPI, you have heard about UPIs doing 10 billion transactions per month, and where UPI was 7 years back is where ONDC is today. Right? So next 7 years of ONDC is going to explode like UPI happened in last 7 years, right? So it's sitting at a juncture in ONDC where even if you enter today, it is not late for any opportunity, right? So that's basically something that I wanted to highlight, that lot of unlocking of potential in ONDC is yet to happen. You can still rule any particular segment of ONDC opportunity, even if you enter today. And ONDC, I just want to tell you a little bit about ONDC. ONDC is a Section 8 company, is a quasi-government company which has multiple shareholders. I think most of them are banks. It basically does ONDC. It has a policy part which takes care of, which is basically the policy of the network. How should the network runs, SLAs, and a lot of the policies that they define, and also the protocol of the ONDC protocol, right? ONDC network, which basically ONDC is a network. Any network you think of, whether it's an email network or internet or whether it's mobile network, you have some protocol through which the network communicates with each other. So ONDC has its own protocol, of course, based on the backend protocol, but that protocol is something which ONDC manages, defines, and then rolls out. Now, technology infrastructure is somewhere ONDC doesn't come into picture, and that's where people like us come into picture. Plotch.ai is a primarily a digital technology infrastructure provider in ONDC. Now, ONDC is a two-sided network, and what it is trying to do is unbundle a lot of capabilities. You may, as someone is strong in something, but you may not be strong in another thing, right? For example, in e-commerce, what we have seen is some people are very strong on the supply side. Some people are very strong on the demand side. What ONDC has done is it created a buyer app ecosystem and seller app ecosystem. Buyer apps basically bring traffic into the network, and seller apps bring supply into the network. And these two, buyer apps and seller apps, basically interact and create transactions. So we have done a lot of webinars on this. So you can pick any of the previous webinars to understand in more detail how ONDC runs. Now, now comes the part which basically this webinar is all about. What happened in 2023, right? Now, when I look back in last year of 2023, when we started, right? When we started, the retail was primarily retail and logistics were the two primarily networks which were there, in the beta version live in Bangalore. That's how the 2023 January started. The retail and logistics beta launch in Bangalore, and these were the only two networks were live. Right? As we progress further, basically there was a version upgrade which happened in retail, which was version 1 to version 1.1. So that happened sometime in March 2023. And basically there were, I think, 10 or 15 NPs at that point in time who moved from version 1 to version 1.1. So that was one event which happened sometime in early part of 2023. Then came fintech. Fintech was launched somewhere in June and May June time frame, when fintech was announced that fintech is going to be there. Three use cases or three categories are going to get launched, which is your mutual funds, your lending, and your insurance. So that was interesting that we came up with, because fintech is something that got me very excited, primarily because a lot of digital transactions which I can see happening in ONDC with respect to that. Two two key important infrastructure, operations related to operations infrastructure frameworks which were launched in 2023. One was IGM and one RSF. IGM, the full form of IGM is issue and grievance management, and the full form of RSF is reconciliation and settlement framework. And these two basically are so important for ONDC network operations. Because it is basically critical to the experience of two edges of the network. So one edge of the network is the customer, which has to be super happy, right? And another edge of the network is a seller, which has to be super happy, right? Customer will be super happy if they, of course, if they get the right product on time, But one of the biggest concern is, if I buy, will my grievance be handled? Will I get my refund back? And can I return all those things, right? So IGM is critical for that customer experience. RSF, if you ask any seller, what will make them happy the most is that I should get my payment on time. So RSF is very, very important. In fact, when we started RSF 1.0, the payments were between the buyer app and seller app and buyer app. Today, we are talking about buyer app to seller. The RSF 2.0 is something that we call it, is basically buyer to the seller. The payment is completely automated. And we hope in 2024, it actually becomes instant, which actually is another white space opportunity, which I feel is there in ONDC. So IGM and RSF were two important operational piece which got launched in 2023. Ratings was conceptualized, was the frameworks was sort of in some ways built further, but it has not yet been launched in 2023. I think sometime, maybe in early part of this year, we'll see ratings getting launched. IGM and RSF are launched. Now, adoption of IGM RSF is still happening. So I would not say that it's launched, is adopted. Launch is one thing, adoption is another thing. So adoption is still happening. So what we saw in networks is retail mobility already there. Fintech came into picture, right? Mobility, of course, scaled, as a pretty large numbers with number 3. IGM RSF launched, adoption is still happening. Ratings is conceptualized. The other use cases, the 3 use cases which actually got announced and some transactions started to happen in those is, one was B2B. So B2B was launched in ONDC. Retail was primarily B2C, still is primarily B2C, but B2B is launched. Export was launched. So there were some export transactions which happened. And gift cards were launched. So some gift card transactions, right? So again, these other use cases were announced, launched, but the scale up is still not there. Right? So that's basically is if you look from ONDC network perspective, whether the kind of networks got launched, whether the operational pieces, the structural frameworks of operations in ONDC, what happened there, other use cases. These are the key highlights that I wanted to present. Now, numbers. Now this is where the whole interesting part of scale up, which we never expected. I have heard when we, when in January 2023, even if we ended at 10,000 orders per day, it would be a celebration, right? Then the middle of the year of 2023, we started thinking about, even if it's 25,000 orders per day, it's gonna be a celebration. That's the end of the month, end of the year number, monthly numbers. And somewhere in September, started thinking, whether 200K, 300K numbers per month can happen by the end of the year. It's amazing if you look, where January 2023, the whole network was doing 2,000 orders in the whole month. And it is now today doing 5.5, which is like 55 lakh orders in a month, right? So there's a 2,500 times change in the number. And that primarily that number has happened in the last half of the last year. And that basically is a tremendous scale which and we are fortunate, Plotch.ai was one of the key enablers in driving these numbers. So we are fortunate to be part of that. But but it is amazing story of scale up, which at least I didn't expect to be this much when we started the year, kind of stuff, right? And it's across domains. So that, of course, the 3 domains which are live, which is retail, mobility, and logistics. Logistics, of course, is more support network right now for retail, but retail is 30%, 37% of the total transactions right now, and mobility, of course, 63%, driven primarily by Namma 3. scale up in Bangalore. Uh, and across variety of categories, right? Top categories, when you look at the retail part, mobility I have not taken, just the retail part. The F&B is the topmost category with 32%. Fashion is about 30%. Fashion is actually growing extremely fast, and probably will overtake F&B very soon. Home and kitchen is the third category, which is ruling right now, and then grocery and beauty and personal and other side. So pretty healthy mix. I personally believe that electronics gonna scale up very quickly. Very soon. It from a GMV perspective, at least, it's gonna be pretty large. And yeah, that's basically is where we are from across the categories. Any questions? I have spoken a lot. Uh, Wanted to hear if there any questions. I think there's some in the chat. How's the traction for gift card segment? So gift card is a very interesting segment. Uh, the traction is still not there because I think the supply side and demand side is still trying to figure out uh, you know, how that will work. But this category has a lot of potential because from what I've heard is that actually something that a lot of small retailers use these days. And because you get 5% discount, 10% discount on Amazon.com or any of the other, portals, it it gives them instant discount to buy from large retail, large marketplaces, and then sell them in the local area using that 5-10% margin that they get, that kind of stuff with gift card. So it's an interesting, from that perspective, there's a huge B2B case around gift card. Still has to take shape. Still has to grow further. We are working on building, a product in that. I think we'll launch that in sometime in 2 to 3 months. Sorry, but definitely there is interest from a lot of NPs, a lot of network participants to launch gift card on their portals. So that because it's easy sell, from Myntra 10% off gift card, I should be able to sell on. If I'm like any buyer app, I would want to sell it kind of stuff. If I get it very easily, the supply should be easy to get, right? So that's basically is where the gift card is today. What is the next question? How are you thinking about ratings? Can you explain a bit more on how about the rating product? Okay. The ratings is and we have done this actually. There is a webinar you can look at the previous webinar on ratings. We actually brought someone from ONDC to talk only about ratings, and you feel free to look at our YouTube channel and watch that. But primarily ratings is, so let me tell you a little bit about ratings, right, from a structure perspective, right? So ratings are captured on the buyer app by the buyer. So as a buyer, I will go to, let's say, Paytm and rate. I can rate a product. I can rate a seller. In future, I can rate a logistics provider through which the logistics has come. I can rate a seller app. I can rate the buyer app itself. In future, the buyer can also be rated by the seller, right? Or the buyer app, right? So all these 6-7 entities are rateable and can be rated. Today in ONDC, only and only seller can be rated. The product rating, the seller app rating, or the logistics rating, all that is still not there, but only the seller rating is there. Ratings is considered to be an asset of the seller. As a seller in ONDC, the good part about ONDC is that as a seller, I only need one gateway, one seller app to enter into the network, right? And the switching cost of the gateway is not very high. I can actually choose gateway which maybe give me the least cost, like the least commission gateway kind of stuff, right? So I can choose that. So if I'm switching, I should be able to take my ratings. So I should be able to preserve my ratings in the ONDC network. So if I'm going through Snapdeal, versus I go to through Paytm into the network, it does shouldn't matter. My ratings should be what my ratings I've collected over time. Right? It's not the case if you switch from Amazon.com to Flipkart.com today, right? If you have ratings on Amazon.com, if you for some reason you are either blacklisted or you have to move out of Amazon.com, your ratings are not automatically going into Flipkart.com kind of stuff, right? Here, but ODC is very clearly saying ratings is an asset of the seller. Seller owns the rating, so he can take it wherever you want to take it kind of stuff, right? So ratings is collected, is given to the seller. Seller then basically puts it into there's the rating service providers, is basically who and ratings has a backbone of a blockchain in ONDC. So it's a little bit more complicated structure, but and I think we have talked about it in my previous webinars. But basically that rating is pushed into the blockchain, and anyone can then request that rating of a seller, and there might be some commercials that you might have to pay for requesting the seller to the rating service provider. But let's say if I as a buyer gave rating to Pizza Hut on Paytm, then Misho as a buyer app can request for Pizza Hut rating from the rating service provider, and they might have to pay them the money kind of stuff. Right? So that's basically how the ratings work. Uh, you know, you feel free to watch your webinars and stuff. I will take a little bit more questions. Little bit, give me like 5-10 minutes, and then I'll take more questions. I just want to complete a few more slides here. Now, I've talked about basically, what happened in 2023 in ONDC broadly, kind of stuff. Then the numbers, and these numbers are, sort of ONDC doesn't publish numbers, in a which you can say somewhere where you can go there. So you have to collate it. So these are collated numbers. Probably not see somewhere else. But these are best to my knowledge. These are the numbers which ONDC has, and the domains and the categories. This is what the 2023 has been. Now, what are we expecting in 2024 and future, right? So 200K per day, 2 lakh orders per day is the transaction which are happening as in December, right? 500K, 5 lakh transactions per day is what we can see happening in the next 3 months itself. It looks unbelievable, but it's very much possible. 10 million transactions, which is like 1 crore transactions orders per day in ONDC we can expect in next 2 years. And then 30 crore transactions, which is 300 million, 30 crore transactions orders per day we can expect by the end of the decade, right? Or maybe more. I feel that it can actually be more. But these are the numbers which we are talking about. We're not talking about few thousand, 10,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 1 crore. Actually talking about 30 crore, 50 crore, 100 crore numbers per day and stuff. And that is the scale which is very exciting about ONDC. That's a scale no one, no one in any part of the world can do it. Only India can do it. And that's basically is why it's so interesting that this is happening in India. Because to think of a 30 crore transactions per day, you have to have that many people and economy that big and those kinds of stuff, right? Which only India has, right? So 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 that's why if you are thinking about ONDC, or if you're new to ONDC and you have been thinking about ONDC from certain time, and if you're not taken any decisions, I would want you to urge you to look at ONDC very seriously. It is it is not that you will enter into the network and suddenly you will start to see a lot of transactions, or you start to see a lot of interesting output. You need to have patience, but patience pays. We have seen that example of those in ONDC. Patience pays, right? So basically we want to urge that these are large numbers, and these are not happening just in mobility or commerce. You are looking at fintech. AgTech is coming. There are, honest network, which is basically is another network. It's under ONDC, which has been created. but primarily for job tech and ed tech. So job tech and ed tech is also coming. Logistics is coming. A lot of other services which we are thinking about that like urban company kind of services model that is also coming. That's right. So lot of interesting numbers, lot of interesting domains which are getting opened. And of course, government support is very critical in forming such a network. And one thing, because we have interacted with government a lot with respect to ONDC, huge amount of excitement in government about ONDC. So government is full force behind it, right? And that basically is what gives us confidence that this network is going to scale up to very very large numbers, quickly. Phase one. So now looking at again 2024 and what might happen. Phase one, retail mobility logistics launched already. Phase two, in next 6 months, you will hear a lot about maybe insurance first, because insurance is picking up extremely fast in ONDC. Insurance and then lending and then mutual funds. And educational jobs is also coming, as I said. So these are the few 4 or 5 things that you'll start to hear a lot more till maybe the first half of this year. A lot more numbers. Still, the numbers are low in this network. Actually, they're not yet launched. So you'll start to see some kind of buzz and some kind of activity in these things. In the later part of 2024 is where you'll start to hear more about export, for example, agriculture, going global. What do you see going global? I don't know. I mean, I still my these are all my gut feelings, but I will or ONDC like kind of networks happening anywhere, around being adopted in other countries. You might hear about that. Energy, circular economy, health, services. So a lot of other things which I think will get opened up in ONDC in latter part of this year. And from a transactions perspective, I said, for 200K by 5 lakh by the end of the March, and then 10 lakh by September. These are the kind of numbers you'll start to hear and stuff. Yeah. So that's basically is what we are looking at unfolding in 2024. So these are with respect to numbers, and this is with respect to the kind of categories which will open up and stuff. And one thing which I always say before I wrap up is that ONDC is for everyone. I keep telling to a lot of folks that I can talk to anyone in any industry, in any location, in any business model, uh, and convince them that they have a role in ONDC. They can actually use ONDC. They can benefit from ONDC kind of stuff, right? So that is the power of ONDC. If you are, whether a large enterprise or MSME, if you are a B2B, B2C business model company, if you are a manufacturing company, a cement company, if you are FMCG company, D2C company, banks, if you are a web developer, if you are a technology provider, if you are legal, if you are doing accounting, if you're doing compliances, you can be of anyone, and ONDC has something for you. Right? So that's basically is sort of to me it's very powerful because it means that each of us will be in somehow benefit or be connected to ONDC and in future kind of stuff. Now next, so I've talked about 2024, 2023 in ONDC, and a lot of people tell us, show us how ONDC works. Show us a buyer app, seller app. Show us how RSF works. Show us how IGM works. And good part is that because we have so many things under on own hood, that we can actually do a detailed presentation of the real, the live transactions, and maybe show you how actually it works in action kind of stuff. So next week, I would urge you, if you or your team members or your colleagues, you can invite any of them to look. We're doing a demo day of 2 hours, 4 to 6 p.m. Where we will take you in depth and show you live, how a buyer app, seller app, how a payment happens in ONDC, how a grievance is handled in ONDC, kind of stuff, and basically, uh, you know, give you a first-hand understanding of it. So that's basically something we'll share, more details on it, how you can register for it. Yeah, and let's together build. I keep saying to a lot of folks, what is most exciting about ONDC is this is an Indian innovation. This is not a Western innovation. And good part is that it is happening at scale, happening at a large scale. So and so the impact is huge across India. With that, I would take few questions. I think a few questions in the chat. How is the traction for gift card? I've answered. How has the average retail order changed through this year? Okay, so that's an interesting question. Now, if you look at how the how the categories have unfolded uh, from January 2023 to December 2023, right? Starting, it was only food, F&B, and grocery, some bit of grocery. So your average order values were not more than 150, 200 rupees kind of stuff. Probably around 100, That's basically the number which was hovering around that time. Then the mobility, so mobility has a different, average order value kind of stuff because it's more about auto rickshaw rides and those kind of stuff. But as a retail, if I just take the retail category, the mix from F&B being 90% is today about 20, 30% kind of stuff. Now the average order value has moved to like 400, 500, that kind of number. So that there's a significant change if you look at from like 150 rupees to today, 500 rupees order value. With electronics, picking up steam, you will start to see that average order value in the first half going up to like 1,000 to 1,500 rupees in across basically as a blended, I'm saying, not just for electronics. So yeah, so Vivek, hopefully I was able to answer your question, but yeah, definitely the average order value has gone up significantly over the first half of the year to the later part of the year. How are you thinking about ratings? I think I've answered that. What is the typical return ratio, especially in fashion category? So fashion, okay, so that's a very good question. Returns. Returns are still not live in the network. The version 1.2 upgrade, which is happening as we are speaking. So I talked about version 1 to version 1.1 upgrade, which happened in March last year. In January of this year, basically, the version 1.1 is being upgraded to version 1.2. Now, version 1.2 supports return. So that basically is where the return in fashion will come. Today, COD is also not there in ONDC network. So cash on delivery is still not there. So all the orders are prepaid right now. So that basically is where the return ratios are therefore manageable. But yes, return ratio is a very important criteria in fashion. A lot of people buy because they're returnable. Like fashion products is very hard to sell if they're not returnable. Now, I have another question. You mentioned electronics as an attractive opportunity in the short term. If I'm Blue Star and I have products listed on Amazon FK, how would it work on ONDC for supply, demand getting matched, transaction workflow and product movement, and returns management? So ONDC basically, if you are Blue Star and if you are, I think you're already on ONDC, that supply and demand getting matched, primarily you are providing supply, right? So demand is going to be there coming, demand is going to come from the buyer apps. Now the certain buyer apps, for example, I know Spice Money, Spice Smart Shop is thinking of basically doing a lot of electronics promotion. So there are few who are very excited about electronics category, and that's basically is going to promote you, right? So if you're looking to be promoted in ONDC network, unfortunately, there are policies which prevent buyer apps to, sort of favor one seller versus another seller. But if you if you are a good seller, which means that you have inventory, you have good products, you can dispatch on time, and very low return ratios and those kind of stuff, buyer apps will automatically promote you and stuff, right? So because buyer apps are today, if you ask me, buyer apps are primarily looking for sellers, good sellers in ONDC network, because for them it is very, very important, given that they're bringing their brand value into the network. It's very, very important the sellers are good, the sellers can dispatch the right kind of product on time, kind of stuff. So if you're a good seller, demand, supply, demand automatically get matched. Transaction workflow and product movement. So basically, the order comes on the buyer app, comes to you through a seller app. You basically take that order, you can assign it to your closest hub if you want to. That basically then gets picked up by courier, then courier then delivers your product to the customer. That basically is a very standard, if you ask me, flow of a ONDC network from an order flow perspective, product movement perspective. And returns, basically, if you're saying your product are returnable, then you also uh, can say that whether you provide pickup of the return. If you do provide pickup the return, then your logistics guy or your own logistics will pick it up from the customer. If you do not provide pickup services, then customer will have to find. But usually it is not the norm in India that you don't provide pickup services to customers. But if you say I don't provide pickup, which ONDC gives you a flexibility to say, then customer will dispatch from their location to the seller location, and then the return will happen, and then they will get the refund. That's how the flow works. Uh, then another question: do you provide only the tech platform, or does your team also support adoption and implementation? So we provide tech platform. We support in implementation. Uh, we have a lot of knowledge about e-commerce, so that we can share with you. But we're not an operations company, so we don't provide, for example, customer support, or we don't provide, any kind of, you can say, merchandising and those kind of stuff. Unfortunately, for that you will have to either get help from outsourced companies, or you have to build your own team. Okay, so I think how the discounts at buyer and seller will be handled. Oh, the discounts at buyer seller side, there are two ways discounts work. One is that buyer apps themselves can give discounts, right? Which which means that there is no impact on the payment to the seller. If there's a 200 rupees product on which a buyer app has given like 50 rupees discount. So customer has paid 150, but the seller has to be paid 200. That's very clear in ONDC. Another thing is the seller can offer a discount. Now for that, basically the seller will be paid what's after the discount the seller has given, kind of stuff. So payment from that perspective is clear, that if buyer app has is giving the discount, the seller will get paid the full amount or minus the commission, whatever that is. And if the seller is providing the discount, then basically minus the discount, the seller will get the payment. So that basically is clear. This, I think, unless you have any other question, I think that's how it works, kind of stuff. Uh, where can we find Zoom link for 12 Gen session? I will share with you the link where you can register for the January 12th. And then you can see all the products in action. Uh, Okay, and yeah, and we have WhatsApp channel. They're like, we have probably one of the largest WhatsApp channels for on ONDC. You feel free to join that, because we post a lot of information about ONDC, and of course the information about sessions like these that we do there. Uh, and then basically, will it be possible to transfer money from my current account to my NP account to handle discounts? Will it be possible to transfer money from my current account to my NP account to handle discounts? So basically, you're saying that if if I if I if I receive 150 rupees and I have to pay 200 rupees to seller. So if in my NP account I have only received 150, then yes, you will have to put 150 rupees more, because only from your NP account the money can go into the seller apps account. So that's basically something that you will have to do at your end. Uh, yeah. Please explain how the financial management and metrics part is managed for the sellers to give a better visibility of the data available. So I am assuming the question here is how the reconciliation and settlements are shared with the seller. Now, reconciliations and settlement has basically multiple parts. So reconciliation for a seller is how many orders has been paid, how many orders has not been paid, how many orders have been paid the correct amount, and how many orders have not been paid the correct amount. And how many orders will be paid in future. So what is my expected payout in the next week or two, to understand my cash flow kind of stuff, right? So that primarily is where how the seller would look at reconciliation, right? The buyer app reconciliation is that if I'm paying, how much I have to pay to the seller app, which orders are eligible for payment. For example, the delivery has happened, the return period has happened, all that has happened. Has the payment come from payment gateway into the my bank account, so that I know that money has been received for this order. So the few reconciliation which is a little bit different from the seller side reconciliation, that reconciliation happen. The settlement part is basically is how basically the settlements are happening between from buyer app to seller app and seller app to seller. That basically is happens through a settlement agency, which is in this case an NPCI subsidiary called NBBL, which does the settlement part. That basically is how the settlement works in ONDC, and the reconciliation I talked about. So that's basically both of them form broadly the reconciliation settlement framework that I talked about. Okay, Aditya, I think okay, Rishabh, let me ask you a question. What kind of models will come up in insurance? Will it be only be distribution platforms like PhonePe, GPay, or will there be apps helping in claims filing other parts as well? So that's an interesting question. So uh, claims. So let's understand the insurance network, how it will get structured, right? The insurance network again will have a buyer app and a seller app, right? In insurance network, there are no aggregator seller apps that you can have. In retail, you can actually have aggregators who can come as seller app, and then they aggregate sellers. And these sellers then use the seller app to basically enter into the network. In insurance and lending also, that is not allowed. So you can only be a seller app if you have your own manufactured products, which means that you have your own insurance products, which means that uh, you know your aggregators, insurance aggregators, cannot be, for example, Insurance Deco cannot be part of the seller app side, right? They can be part of the buyer app side, but they cannot be part of the seller app side. So that's one difference in insurance, right? Uh, so if you want to be part of the claims filing, that you want to be part of claims, then most probably you will have to work with the buyer apps, because a lot of buyer apps who are entering into insurance may not have prior experience of selling insurance. For example, I'm just taking example, let's say Misho wants to sell insurance. In ONDC, they can actually start selling insurance. Although today, I think they don't sell insurance on their own platform, primarily because for them, If you today, if you want to sell insurance, you will have to connect to 25 insurance companies individually, right? Which is a big challenge. In ONDC, what happens, and that's the beauty of ONDC with respect to logistics network, retail network also. You just need ONDC APIs to connect to all the insurance providers on the other side, right? So Misho can immediately think about selling insurances, but the whole workflow of insurance is very different. You have claims processing, you have even you have to manually manage the premiums, and a lot of other things are there which is a little bit different, actually very different from the retail flow which happens, right? So they need help, and people who are looking provide that help can go to these insurance, so these buyer apps of insurance who have never sold insurance before, but they need help. We actually seeing that in retail also. A lot of people are becoming e-commerce companies, but they have never been e-commerce companies. So they need help in customer care. They need help in merchandising. They need help in analytics, a lot of other things, promotions, and therefore there is a lot of opportunity, which is in these areas. If you directly talk to buyer apps. If you are a service provider, you can also ping us. We, of course, we are being the largest. We connected to a lot of folks, so feel free to ping us if you need any help there. Uh, Great. I think I've answered all the questions, so that's good. And hopefully you all like the session. We keep doing these sessions, very frequently. Feel free to join them, and we like participation. So and definitely participate in the demo day that we're doing on Friday next week, because it is not easy to see ONDC products in action, and we want to bring that in life and show you. Yeah, with that, I want to thank you and wish you a good weekend, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.